And that's the end view of the same thing. You can see it's very modern now, but originally it would have been... one of the questions I had was the length of wood required to build a great big building. And 92% of the country was forest. And not many people were cutting trees down back then. Now they were growing. And somebody said to me, well, oak trees don't grow that big, you might get 20 feet at most. Now I needed to span the circle at Stonehenge over 50 feet. And I thought, I'm not going to do it. Oh, it's not going to work. Well, I found a big book on trees, and there's a tree in Ireland, and it's an oak tree. And this particular type of oak tree grows 50 feet before it has the head. It's a gigantic tree, and the theory is, it still exists, this tree, the theory is that these trees were all over Britain, but they got chopped down and used for buildings and shipping and so on. And what were left is all the oak trees what didn't get used. Now, thankfully, I was watching television one day, and Fred Dibner was, well, he was looking at Ely Cathedral, and he said there were beams inside Ely Cathedral, 2 foot square, over 50 feet long, over 800 years old, in perfect condition. And I found this picture on Google, and it showed, I don't know if these are the beams he's referring to, but there's some big long pieces of wood there. So the material was available. The people at that time had very little in the way of technology, and they were great woodworkers. That's all they dealt with. You know, they had wood, earth, rocks, very basic, but they had great intellect, great intelligence. So, and they had the materials and the know-how. So this idea of a building is coming together. Now, what I'm starting to realise is Stonehenge, everyone thinks that it's a freestanding structure. The whole world agrees. But the Sarsen Circle are in the ground really deep, and they've been packed with wedges to make sure they don't fall over. But the Sarsen Circle, you'd think it'd be in the ground like teeth, but it wasn't. They were in the ground just enough to cover the radius. Some of them only 18 inches deep. And that's why they've all fallen over. And I thought, but yet, to look at this is for strength. The mortise and tenon and the tongue and groove, it's almost as if it's structural. I mean, and yet, put any weight on it, it'd all fall over. So this is, you know, I can see I was formulating an idea. Oh, by the way, these holes were made by flint. I've spoke to 4 different stonemasons. They got a flint, you put it on a stick, and you spin it around, and it drills into sarsen. With a hammer and chisel today, you could not make those holes. You have to use flint. So they knew how to work and cut and shape stones with flint hammers. And that's what I've come up with. There it is, Stonehenge, the Trilithians. Now these YZ holes, I believe, had stones in them. So the people who said these holes were dug 300 to 700 years later, they said, couldn't have been a building, couldn't have been. I said, no. They were dug at the same time as Stonehenge. The holes had stones in them, so they weren't holes, were they? The stones were removed 300 to 700 years later, and only then did they become a hole and fill in naturally. So they were the YZ stones. So now it's not 1 ring of stones, but 3 rings of stones. Yeah. That's another picture. Yeah. Now, at Stonehenge, they found hundreds of balls. This stone ball is about the size of a football. Some of them are like watermelons, some are like footballs. And they've been called stone molds. They're suggesting that these balls were used as hammers, and yet they're made of very weak stone. I don't think they were used as hammers. I think they used proper hammers with flint heads to chip sarsen and shape it and cut it. So these balls are in the museum next door. There they are. Now, that's my first drawing I ever made of what I think Stonehenge was. That was back in the days when I thought they were fire in the middle of the room, very basic, like a house. So I drew that. Then I drew that. I found out about the YZ holes, but I got them in the wrong place. I put them in line with the middle of the lintel, and I got them in the wrong place. So now, got them in the right place. Put the buttresses there. Now, I haven't got a picture, and I've seen a picture, and I've looked for months to try and find it. One man in the 50s climbed up to the lintels on the inside upper edge with a chalk, and I got the photograph. I lost it. And he drew the bit what had been dressed absolutely flat. So the little model of a lintel here, this lintel, the inside upper edge, only in the middle, is absolutely flat. And on top, again, dressed flat. The rest of the lintel, all a bit bumpy, you know, but that bit, exactly where the beam would fit. Exactly. And so something's starting to formulate. The idea that it was every lintel carried a beam. The buttresses went down onto these big stones so that there's no rotting insect or damp going to get in. And the whole of the weight of the roof could be transported, pressed, circumferential stresses going straight down through those beams. So therefore the sarsen circle didn't need to be strong. It didn't have to be dug into the ground because it was just carrying the vertical weight. But all the energy, all the weight of the roof would come straight down into the ground. So this is a fantastic idea, but still thatch roof at this time. Still thinking of fire in the middle. They're all walking around in.